Down there was like a scratch board. But she said what I didn't realise was intimacy was very difficult. And what she had was terrible vaginal dryness. And the estrogen pessaries are so natural. You can take them to their 100.
All the things that we shy away from, Mary talks about it.
Another thing that we spoke about the podcast was erectile dysfunction in men. It took him 6 months to go to his doctor. We see loads of men with this. If people weren't able to have intimacy, humanity would stop. I want to empower women to love themselves and telling you to start putting yourselves first. Adam and Eve was a long time ago and they never spoke about menopause. Someone at my table said her husband doesn't have a clue. The whole thing around menopause though with the vaginal dryness is huge. Then you're going to get aches and pains. You have the anxiety, which is a huge issue. Know that hormones control everything. That's why you don't sleep. That's why you have the bloating and the tummy. If you have irregular periods and you put on weight and you have difficulty losing weight, you might have a thing called...
This is a really special episode. We recorded this conversation with Dr. Mary Ryan at the Big Day Out. Now, some of you will remember Dr. Mary from a few episodes back when we talked all about our hormones and how as men and women we need to be looking after ourselves, loving ourselves so that we're happy and healthy in our lives, working lives and personal lives. An amazing episode that has had an unbelievable response and impact, and we'll link it in the show notes. But this episode is a little short bonus episode brought to you from the event The Big Day Out, which I run every year. It brings my community of women on the Digg Mama platforms together. 500 women in the room, loving life, celebrating each other, empowering each other and supporting each other and making memories. And Dr. Mary Ryan joined me on the stage to talk about things which can be uncomfortable to talk about, both as women and men. We talk about our men and the men in our lives as well, and how we all need to be empowering each other. So I suppose my only ask of you as you listen to this episode is, if you feel there's someone in your life that needs to listen to it, share it. Share it with them. People really don't know until knowledge is shared with them and they're educated. So maybe there's someone needs to hear this today and needs to hear from the amazing woman that is Dr. Mary Ryan. I'll hand you over now to Dr. Mary Ryan live from the Big Day Out.
So Mary, I recently interviewed Mary on my podcast and the response was phenomenal. Mary talked about menopause, perimenopause, thyroid problems, managing our kids and their expectations, intimacy with your partner, all the things that we shy away from. Mary talks about it. Mary, thank you for being here. What is your work involved for people who don't know?
So what I suppose my work is endocrinology. So hormones control everything. Hormones control all your muscles, they control your immune system. And we all have a hormone control center here. And women are dreadful because we don't love ourselves enough. So we have periods. Our hormonal cycle starts from 12 until beyond 50, where we have periods every 28 days. And if we don't love ourselves and recharge ourselves and eat healthily and have our bodies as close to 10 out of 10, then our hormones won't work right. And I suppose what I saw this on a daily basis in the clinics, because endocrinology is all about hormones. And I saw women coming into me to get pregnant and they were absolutely exhausted. And some of them had, gone through IVF, unfortunately, and not been successful. And for any of you that haven't gone through IVF, it's a brilliant thing to have, but to put yourself through it when you don't need it, when the main thing they needed to do was slow down, listen to their bodies, take it easy, learn to say no, know their own boundaries. And those women went off and got pregnant. So I suppose what I'm trying to do is empower women about hormones. As so many women said when I met them there earlier, we haven't put women first in this country and in a lot of countries. I suppose, like you, Caroline, I want to empower women to love themselves, put themselves first, know that hormones control everything, know about their period health, know about what to do when they want to get pregnant and what not to do, and how to help themselves. And I suppose things that were never spoken about, even to me as a doctor, I want to empower medics, which I have done because I started talking about menopause down in Dublin, and thankfully it's come up here. But I mean, it's so dreadful to think that, Adam and Eve was a long time ago and they never spoke about menopause. I mean, someone at my table said her husband doesn't have a clue what menopause is. So I suppose it's for women. I want women to know about what's a normal period. A normal period is only 3 to 4 days. It's not 7 and 8 days long. I want you all to know that polycystic ovary disease is quite common. It's when if you have irregular periods and you put on weight and you have difficulty losing weight, you might have a thing called polycystic ovaries, which is so easy to treat. Someone I met today, she said, I need to go on that magic drug. No, you don't. There's a magic little tablet that we use all the time for polycystic ovary disease, which basically gets rid of the cysts on the ovaries, and that gets rid of the bad insulin that's making the fat. And, those women go back to having regular periods instead of having no periods or 2 periods a year. So I suppose what I'm trying to do is empower women with the knowledge about what they should have known all along, which was never spoken about, which was their periods, their fertility, polycystic ovary disease, what perimenopause is all about. It's that time in your life from 45 to 50. Some women get it much younger, where the eggs become depleted. And as a result, the hormone control center that's controlling all your hormones is under pressure because that hormone that's controlling it is going up. And therefore, you're getting aches and pains in your muscles. Because remember, if this hormone control center is under pressure and it's controlling all the muscles, then you're going to get aches and pains. That's why you don't sleep. That's why you have the bloating and the tummy, because the hormones are off. So therefore, the whole circadian rhythm is off. And then you also have the vaginal dryness. You have the anxiety, which is a huge issue. I met a woman here today and she said to me she looks after a lovely autistic child. She's got a lot of children, but her youngest is severely autistic. But she's going through perimenopause with severe anxiety. And that's a real big symptom. So I suppose I wanted women to be educated to know that there is help, that yes, you can just do the natural supplements, you do the lifestyle changes. That's really important. Love yourself. Really rest because then the hormone control center can deal with it better. And then obviously there's HRT if it's safe for you to go on. And menopause then is when the periods stop completely and all those symptoms are way, way worse. But some women sail through it. But I had a woman that I met there at the table and she was saying, I sailed through menopause, but she said what I didn't realize was intimacy was very difficult. And what she had was terrible vaginal dryness. And the estrogen pessaries are so natural. You can take them to your 100 and they protect you from getting yeast infections. They protect you from getting kidney infections. And they stop all the soreness down there and intimacy. And, I so often get women coming into me. I remember one woman said to me, she said down there was like a scratch board. I mean, she was that dry. So, the poor women years ago had to put up with that. I don't know how they did it because this wasn't spoken about. The lovely thing is we're sharing the knowledge and we can all help each other. But
And Mary, those are words we don't say very often out loud. Like, it's hard to talk about. No bother to you, it just comes out of you, but that's your business. But I'm sure there's a few people like, oh my God, did she just say that? But it's important that we open up the conversation.
Totally.
People do not need to suffer. They don't need to live like this. And it's about empowering women to stand up and say, so I said to you in the podcast, right, if there's a woman in the room and they're having intimacy problems for whatever reason with their partner, what would you advise they do? And you said you have to find a doctor or someone that you can feel you can share that with. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And like another thing that we spoke about the podcast was erectile dysfunction in men. And I had a young man in only last week, and he was referred in by his doctor because he had a hormonal problem. His prolactin was really high, which is another hormone in the pituitary gland. But it was affecting him because, he took him 6 months to go to his doctor about it. And eventually his wife pushed him and said, you've got to go. And he came in and we treated it. And he was so relieved because he said, oh, thank God you didn't make me feel as if I was. And I said, sure, we see loads of men with this. And the thing is, it's as important for men that we talk as it is for women, because we need to normalize all this, because this is all normal. This is how we go on. If people weren't able to have intimacy, the humanity would stop. So I think it's about time that we normalized it. But it's very important that women can talk about it, men can talk about it.
I know.
And the whole thing around menopause, though, with the vaginal dryness is huge. And not enough women are taking the pessaries and the creams that are natural. And you can take whether or not you have a family history of breast cancer. And they're very, very safe. So I would really like to point that out.
And when I had Mary on the podcast, I think there's a certain time in all our lives when we start to feel like we're on the next part of our life, right? You talked about that. So life, Mary said to me, it's great when you get to a certain part of your life, you don't have to worry about getting pregnant anymore. I was like, okay. So that's a big thing. You're moving into the next phase of your life, and it's a life to be lived. Often women, especially Irish women, can feel like we're on the wind down.
Totally.
We are only getting started, right? Who's only getting started?
The next 50 years. And that's why I love to see all of the women dressed up. And I think it's great to see women looking after themselves. You know, women work hard. We do take too much on. You know, I'm always saying this to women. We need to, and I think it's happening, thankfully, that we're getting our partners more involved than we did. And it's more of a 50-50, but it needs to be. Because if you are overdoing it in the home and you're also working very hard outside the home, your hormone control center is overtired. And if that hormone control center gets overtired, remember it controls the immune system. And that's how you get cancer. That's how you get disease. So it's terribly important that we do look after ourselves. And I think women are changing, but changing very slowly.
Yeah.
You know, I still get women coming to me exhausted, erect, thyroid. Thyroid disease is very common in women. Why? Because this gland controls the immune system. And when this gland gets overtired, the immune system attacks the thyroid. So you get overactive or underactive. I rarely see thyroid disease in men, and that's the truth. And the only men I see it in is the ones that are overdoing it. So we women have to cop on and realize that we have to love ourselves, because if we don't stay healthy, our children aren't going to stay healthy. But also, we only have one life. And
We only have one life.
To live our life properly. And also, we have to mentor our boys and girls that they will love themselves the way we love ourselves. So I know you're starting today loving yourself, but you really have to take it from here into the home, putting yourself first, eating healthily. You know, people say to me, it's hard to eat healthily. No, it's not. You buy the trolley, you don't put the rubbish in, and you have the 2 treats a week. So as women, we have a huge role that we can, you know, teach people, teach our children. But we also have a role to show them how life should be lived.
Yes.
And it's important to look after ourselves. And if we do that, they will do it. And then we're all going to be healthier.
I know. And Mary gave me a great tip. Yes, thank you. We need to love ourselves, right? Because when you say you need to love yourself, you can feel like that's like a negative thing. We are all like taught to shy kind of back and let other people go front. But Mary said a thing to me about, I said, what do you mean loving yourself? And you said to me, Mary, at home we need to look after ourselves and not be as stressed. So even getting the kids to empty the dishwasher, to making things less stressful. And Mary said, I don't know if you remember saying this to me, that one woman said, oh, I can't get my daughter to do that. She's doing the leaving cert.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry. My movie made me clean that brown bath. Did anybody ever have a brown bath or a blue bath or a pink bath? A green bath? I had to clean the white rim, Mary, every Saturday after the 5 boys.
And that's what made you the woman you are.
It's all because of you, Bridget. Thank you. Yeah. But, and it didn't matter, like you said you were out milking cows and all, and then you went and did your doctor and became a doctor. We can mollycoddle our kids, and then we get stressed doing what they can do.
Totally. And I think, you know, our generation of women, we weren't told, you know, our parents didn't realize that, you know, they never told us how fantastic we were. It wasn't a done thing, right? Now we are there telling our children they're brilliant, but we've forgotten about the boundaries. We've forgotten to, you know, correct them, to get them to do the rota as we did, because we're empowering our children. If you ask them to do work around the house, you can't possibly do it all yourself. It's not possible. So I have a rota. My poor husband died. It's 11 years ago now, suddenly. But I have one of my boys there, Sean, and thanks, Sean, for coming.
Sean is it Mary's son. There he is.
Here, Sean. But
Mary, just touch on that. So your lovely husband passed away when your children were really wee, isn't that right? And there'll be people in the room tonight who have lost their partner and find it, or maybe in the middle of a sickness or whatever. How did you get through those hard days when you had 3 wee ones?
It was very difficult, and I suppose it was they that kept me going. I met a lovely woman who was in a similar circumstance here, actually. But the 3 children probably kept me going. life as a doctor. The patients were fabulous. I actually had to stop them asking for me because they were, asking all the time, and they were so good. But I suppose it was the 3 children, my family, and my work. And I suppose for anyone who has been in that position, as you know, the first 2 years are dreadful. You're in an absolute dark hole. You're just trying to survive. And then after that, you just pick yourself up and you get on. And I suppose that's all you can do when you're faced with that. And you get the strength from somewhere. But I suppose the one thing I've learned from it is life, when we had just moved into our house and we thought this was forever. And suddenly I was there, a young widow with 3 young children. And I thought, is this my life now? Is it ended? And you have to grasp life. You have to live it to the full. And you never know when the day will come. And that is why I am out here educating women and telling you to start putting yourselves first.
I recently spoke to a lady called Anna Mather, and she's a psychotherapist, and she said the uncomfortable truth is we're going to have so many hard times in our lives,
Yes.
but we can't crumble. We need to keep going, keep living, because we have to live our lives. But the challenges we face can make us feel like we don't want to keep going. When we listen to people like you, it empowers us.
Thank you.
Makes us believe that we are good enough to be anywhere, to be heard, to feel good inside, to feel good in our relationship.
Absolutely. And I think to empower our children as well.
Yeah.
And that's where the rota comes in. We need to make them resilient. If we're, wrapping them up in cotton wool, they're not going to be able to be resilient, because it is a tough world out there, as we all know. It's a wonderful world, but it's a tough world.
Yeah.
And I think we have to empower our children more than we are doing by getting them to do more in the home.
I told you she wasn't afraid to say the words that sometimes make us squirm a little. But those words are important, and it's important that people like Mary keep normalizing this type of conversation, because people have only got one life and we shouldn't suffer in silence. We need to get help and live our best life and love ourselves, as Mary said. So take that away today from that bonus episode, if nothing else. One life, let's live it well. Thank you for listening to this bonus episode of the Digg podcast, and I will speak to you all again very soon.